How's it going today, guys? This is Tanner with Woodgrain, and we're here yet to bring you another beautiful accent wall. We're going to show you step by step on how to create this beautiful look. We're calling this our modern geo. So if you haven't seen any of our other videos up to this point, we have a ton of different videos showcasing different designs and patterns. Check those out on our playlist below to get other inspiration for your specific look and feel. So some quick insight on this specific wall. This was a pretty quick and easy job. It took about 2 hours for install and then probably another 2 hours for finishing and paint. The idea, we wanted to do something a little bit more modern. I wanted to add some angles to this small space. This is definitely a very small wall compared to some of our other walls. Your specific room is going to be a little different in size, but the concept and the directions we're going to give you are completely modular. You can make this your own, you can make modifications, you can do a different angle, you can kind of pick and choose, but this will give you the basis for what you're going to need and the steps to complete this. So some quick insights and tricks we learned along the way. We ended up cutting all of our angular pieces at once, so we knew our specific measurement and just chopped the specific amount we were going to need rather than doing one by one and having to measure. This helped kind of create an assembly line and help streamline the process. The other focus you're going to want to do is when you're finishing, you want to make sure that this seam looks really clean when it's coming together. So spend some time with your caulking and putty on those joints where all of the molding is meeting together. As far as degree of difficulty, I would say this is probably a medium degree of difficulty. Just the fact that you do have some angles that you have to cut into that. It's not just straight cuts, but not super difficult in a lot of ways. So these are the tools you're going to need for this project. You're going to obviously need molding. You're going to need a nail gun. I used 18 gauge brad nails, sandpaper, caulking. I used wood putty for the bigger gaps and nail holes, and then sandpaper, 220 sandpaper to sand and seam those joints together. A couple other things you're going to need: tape measure, a pencil, and even a laser level is nice. You can kind of apply with that. The other thing you can do that actually helps is getting tape to kind of see where your angles are going to meet up. You can actually tape everything off. We didn't necessarily do it on this wall, but that's always a good step in the preparation phase. So the design we're going to be doing today is in an office lobby. It's a smaller wall, but it's going to be in a high traffic. It's upstairs, so it's not where the general public necessarily come, but whoever's opting out of the space is going to want something that can show well for clients and be timeless. So that's keeping that in mind. So we have 5 specific steps to make this happen today. First is the prep. So deciding what you're going to design, deciding the look and feel. We came up with this design just because we wanted something modern, fun, and just unique to kind of catch the eye. So we have white walls within the space. We're probably going to do like a deeper color tone to make it pop and really make this wall a statement piece. Within the planning, we are going to determine what profiles we're going to be using or what molding we're going to be using for this design. We're going to be doing 2 modern profiles provided by Woodgrain. There's a number of different materials you can use: pine, MDF, when it comes to moldings. So we have a 254 stop here, which is going to be doing all of our triangles. And then for our base, we're going to be using a modern profile S4S board, a 1x3. So that's the look we're going to use. These are the profiles. That's the first step in the journey of creating this wall. So guys, we're here in the planning and measuring stage. We are going to make some adjustments here. So originally I quadded it out to have 4 different lateral moldings, and the wall is really small, so we're going to cut that down to 3 to make sure that our triangles don't get swampus. Like I said in the initial intro, you got to determine what your angles are going to be and kind of the size of your wall specifically. So we're going to make some changes within this. The other thing I would recommend is don't be afraid to write on the wall so you know where your breaks are at. This will give you a good template. It's all going to be covered up with paint and molding anyways, so right away write down any specific measurements and then identify your studs. We're going to see hopefully a good amount of these moldings we can get into the studs so we have a little bit more secure placement. We are determining the angle of our triangles. So the space from the base to our ceiling is 91 inches. We decided we're gonna have 3 triangles, so we broke that up and divided it out. So that came up with 33, what do we say, 33 and
3/8.
3/8. And then mark that specifically down the molding to determine where our triangles will be created. And then where our triangles meeting was 15 and 3/16. So as you can see here, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but determined our angle and made sure we like the look and feel of that for spacing. So drew it out. We have a lot of writing on here. It can be a little confusing, but that's how we determined our spacing for our triangle. So did a little quick math. You're gonna have to determine how big your wall is. If it's higher or lower, height-wise, you're gonna have to adjust, but that's what we're working off of. And then you can use a miter square to determine our angle on the cut. So there's a number of different tools that can help measure during this process. So we've kind of determined up to this point, we have a little bit of a tricky situation in the corner here, just the fact that there's a lip with the window seal. So from the top, we're looking at 101 inches. And then we get to the bottom or the midsection over, it's about 95. And then the height of the wall is about 95 as well. The other thing we have to keep in mind is we actually have a light here that we have to work around that we'll have to integrate with our design. Obviously every space is a little different, so don't just follow my measurements, but determine what you need to do and kind of adapt from that. But that's the second step in the process, is figuring out your measurements. So next step in the process is the installation. So we're gonna be installing our molding specifically with brad nails. We're gonna be using 18-inch brad nails, and then in some spots we'll actually use liquid nails to help adhere the molding in some of the trickier situations. And then along with that, we'll be using a miter saw to make our cuts. So that's kind of the tools you're gonna need along the way. Follow along, we'll show you step by step on the angles that are being cut to create this look. Now that we've determined our angle and our cuts, we're actually gonna use a template, our first measurement, our first cut. We went and made sure that fit perfectly and looks good on the wall. And we're gonna repeat that 6 times. So let's cut these up. So the fourth stage here is finishing. We have caulking to fill all of our seams, and then wood putty to fill in our nail holes and some of the imperfections within the boards themselves. So this is the most important stage. This is what's gonna make it set apart and really look clean and professionally done. It can really help with any of the imperfections, because there's no way you're gonna install this perfectly. So the fact that you can kind of do a good job in the finishing work, it'll make the 5th step a lot easier. So a few things with caulking. You want to have a 45-degree cut when it comes to the top of your caulk. This will help apply a lot easier rather than having a straight cut across. And then the other thing I like to have is some towels and some water. So this will help me go across. What I like to do as far as applying caulk is to run my bead across, and then actually have a little bit of water and some towels just in case I get a little excess caulking. But the water I'll essentially run a wet finger across to make the seam seep in. So that's what we're gonna do here and keep moving. We've done a good majority of our finishing work. We've done our caulking and our putty and all of the nail holes and imperfections. Now we're gonna go over with sandpaper. I like to do it with a hand palm sander and all the large surfaces and anything that it can reach. And then there's a lot of cracks that this is not gonna be able to access. Using a foam sander is always a good bet. I use about 220 grit sandpaper, a little bit finer sandpaper. This kind of knocks down all of the imperfections and gets it ready for paint. So beyond this, we need to make sure that we wipe down the moldings with a damp rag. This will help us get ready for the last stage, which is painting. Okay guys, we're moving on to painting. A couple quick tips with painting. We already talked about masking everything off and making sure it's not gonna get overspill on carpets or the outside walls, but a few things when it comes to painting moldings. You wanna make sure you have consistent strokes. Make sure you're not dripping, especially when you get into these cracks. It can easily pile up and kind of drip below. If that happens, just kind of go back over with a roller. Use your paintbrush in those cracks. That's gonna help get those hard to reach spots that a roller just can't get to, and cut it loose. So the other thing to kind of keep in mind is you're not going to see a lot of the angles. To the naked eye, you're not going to see that angle, but you know you need to get in and underneath those cracks. So having a paintbrush and a roller can help accomplish that. So guys, thanks for following along. I hope this was useful. Definitely subscribe to our video and follow along for all things moldings and doors.